Let me tell you something. Just because the mortgage term says 40 years does not mean you have to keep it for 40 years. What? So the interest cost on these loans, is based on the fact that you keep it for 40 years. They use terminology and we get sucked into the terminology: 30-year loan, 40-year loan, 20-year loan, 15-year loan, and all of the numbers are based on the terms that are mentioned. But you do not have to keep it. If you have a 15-year loan, a 30-year loan, a 25-year loan, you don't have to keep it for that term. You can manipulate that so you can pay a lot less interest so that you are paying it off in about 7. How about that? So listen, let me tell you something, folks. You want to get your house, whether you're a real estate investor or whether you are a residential home buyer, you want to get into the house the easiest way possible. Let's dispel some things right now. I see here that the one thing that people think about 40-year mortgages right now, there are lenders out there right now that offer 40-year mortgages. They're not as common in every single company that offers mortgages that offer the same 30-year mortgages, but you can get 40-year mortgages, real estate investors and home buyers. All right. And let me tell you this. If I had an opportunity and the next loan I get, the next mortgage I get, I'm getting a 40-year mortgage. I have on my screen a 20-year mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, and a 40-year mortgage. I may even put up a 50-year mortgage, because if they offer me a 50-year mortgage, I'm going to jump on it with both feet. Yes, 50-year mortgage. I will do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and put this on the screen. I'm going to add this. There you are. I'm looking at a $300,000 mortgage right now at 6%. So let's take a look at our amortization schedule. This is a 20-year mortgage, 240 payments. Now, here's the payment, $2,149.29. Okay. So if you're a real estate investor, one of the things you want to take a look at is, how can I increase cash flow? All right. So if I have a 30-year mortgage at 6%, 20-year payments, now my mortgage payment is $2,000. If I want a cash flow, or if I want a lower payment, then I have to charge more rent than $2,149. So this is why real estate investors may take a look at, well, I don't want a 20-year loan because here's my payment. The other thing we're looking at is the interest payment on this thing is $1,500 for the very first payment. When I make the first payment, $649.29 goes to principal, $1,500 goes to interest. Whew, look at that. Now, I'm going to put up a 30-year loan. Watch this. On a 30-year loan, my payment is $1,798.65. Look at that. From $2,149.29 to $1,798.65. So my payment is already less on a 30-year loan. All right. Now, take a look at the very first payment on this one. $298.65 goes to principal on this loan, but look at the interest payment. It is exactly the same, $1,500. We just went from 20 to 30 with the exact same first interest payment. Look at the first two interest payments. One is $1,500. The next one is $1,498. Look at the 20-year loan. $1,500 and $1,496. Only about a $2 difference between the 20-year loan and the 30-year loan. Let's take a look at now the 40-year loan. That's 480 payments. Look at this payment, $1,650.64. A $300,000 mortgage at 6%. Look at my payment, $1,650.64. Let's take a look at the first two interest payments. Look at here, $1,500 and $14.99, virtually the same amount of money. Can I show you something else that's interesting here? Let's take a look at the interest cost on these loans in the first 12 months. Watch this. The interest cost in the first year on the 20-year loan is $17,782.12, and you pay down your loan by $8,000. Okay? You pay it down by $8,000. That's your principal pay down, but the interest cost is $17,782.12. Let me ask this question. Is $17,700 too much interest to pay the loan down by $8,000? You tell me. Okay? That is the 20-year loan. And we think by a 20-year loan, we're going to pay a lot less interest. But in this case, it's $17,000 in interest, $17,782 in the first year. Let me show you what it costs to pay it down in the first year on a 30-year loan. No one else is going to point this out to you. Dave Ramsey is not going to point it out to you. Susie Orman is not going to point it out to you. Your loan officer will not point it out to you. Why? Because your loan officer is not trained in how to understand how an amortization schedule actually works. Your real estate agent is not going to point this out to you. The only place you're going to get this information, folks, is right here in the P.I.L.L method. The only place you're going to get this is here so that you can see the truth about these loans and the transparency of it. Truth and transparency, that's what you get here. And this is what we're dedicated to, so you can see the truth of the matter. Watch this. A 30-year loan, the interest cost on the first year is $17,899, almost as much on a 30-year loan. Look at 20-year, $17,782, 30-year, $17,899, virtually the same amount. Okay, just a few dollars difference. You would think that a 40-year loan would be way more money than this in the first year. Well, let me show you. Look at this. 40-year loan, $17,949.45. Almost as much money. Look at that. But on the 20-year loan, your payment is much higher. So why put yourself in a bad position? I never get a 20-year loan. Never. I don't recommend 15-year loans. I don't recommend 20-year loans. I recommend 30-year loans or more. Always. Because the interest cost is about the same. That's number one. But in number two, the interest cost on a higher term is much easier to manipulate, and you can beat the bank at their own game when you do this. Let me tell you why marketers do what they do based on how most of us look at something. Okay? When you have a choice of options, I want you all to think about this. As a seller of a particular item, all right, whatever your widget you're selling, whether it's a service or a product, when a expert marketer who hires a marketing firm to do something, they may have different prices for the product and the features that that product has. Okay. So you may have the highest price point where they say, listen, here's all the bells and whistles. Okay. Then there's a mid price point where you got some of the bells and whistles. And then there's the lower price point where you only got a couple of bells and whistles. All right. So here's what most marketers do. They give you at least 3 options. The one option that they're all hoping you'll choose is not the highest option, is not the most expensive option. And then most people will not choose the cheapest option. Most people will choose the middle option. And that's what the sellers really want you to purchase. They want you to purchase the middle option. So they give you a huge option that in your mind, you're thinking, man, that's a lot of money. And this one down here, this little bitty option is not going to do much for me because I don't get a lot of bells and whistles with this one. I'll take this middle option because it kind of fits my price point. I get some of the bells and whistles, but I don't need all of the bells and whistles that this top option. Now, guess what? Some people only want the best in their mind, so they're going to choose that anyway. But most people will choose the middle option because when you have a lower point, a midpoint, and a high point, most people will choose the midpoint. Boom. That's what they're doing.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.